What are you guys doing at Network Insights?
We believe we're changing the way that advertising is planned and bought. If you look at over the last 50 years, there have been certain tools, certain information that's been available. With the explosion of social media, there's a whole new area of information and insights that can be gleaned. And especially when you take a look at the fact that more and more people are becoming engaged around their offline media advertising online. So we take that information that's from all of the blogs and forums and Facebook and Twitter, and we take a deep dive analysis and help the marketers, brand marketers, really understand what are the things, the drivers, right, the actual motivators that are making consumers want to go ahead and engage. And so as opposed to just simply listening to somebody and you know, wow, how is our brand being perceived? Is it positive? Is it negative? And so forth. We're actually taking a much deeper dive and being able to let you know not just what it is that they're saying, but why they're saying it, where they're saying it, how they're saying it, and what kinds of content do they like. Your brand is being discussed in a lot of different areas, but your consumer is only really interacting with your brand 2-3% of the day. So how are they living the rest of their lives? Yeah. And how is that being expressed emotionally online? And when you really know that, then that's going to provide you a much greater connection so that you can begin to either know where you should really be placing your advertising dollars, and then it also helps from a creative standpoint. What should I be saying? Or what should I not be saying? And make sure that any positive messages that I create are actually being attributed to me, my brand, as opposed to maybe somebody else's.
Okay, so 2 questions, and they might possibly end up having the same answer. What's one of the most surprising trends that you helped to pinpoint as you were diving into some client data? And what's a success story? What client were you able to work with where you kind of turned around possibly their strategy based on what you found?
Well, I'll answer the second one first. One of our clients is MTV, and they were launching a brand new show for them, Teen Wolf. One of the biggest challenges that they had was that they had to build an audience from scratch, first scripted show. And they really needed not just, okay, we're going to drop some content and see how it plays, but why is it playing, so that they could change, literally on a weekly basis, the kind of content that they were dropping to build the offline audience through social. And the success was they actually hit a home run. They overachieved on their target share numbers, and they attribute a lot of that to the insights that they were able to glean by really getting in and understanding and listening properly, and then analyzing, right, the information. Teen Wolf, I think, has just gotten renewed for a second year. So, and the first question again was,
what's the biggest surprise that you've seen? A trend that you just didn't expect?
Because we deal specifically with client issues and not just with trends in general, I think one of the things that's really most surprising on an ongoing basis is where we find conversations about brands that brands never would have thought conversations were taking place. And so this is obviously, in many instances you go with your own biases. And when you do that for a long enough period of time, you recognize that, or you forget to recognize, the conversations happen everywhere. And for a number of our clients, we found sites where important conversations were going on about their brand they never would have thought to listen to had they not been able to take the approach that we take. And that is from an audience up approach and listening to the topics and themes that they themselves are discussing, as opposed to a predefined approach, which is I only want to listen to my brand. You want to listen to your brand, you're going to miss 98% of the conversation.
Right. Okay, most of the people listening to this interview are going to be totally on the same page that you are, but sometimes you need to convince more traditional people of the value of something like this. What are 2 talking points that we can take to decision makers who are kind of skeptical?
That's a great question. We deal with that every day, and that is the validity of social media as an analytic. Okay, I think what's interesting is that billions of dollars of marketing decisions have been made based upon the responses of 3 to 4 dozen people in a focus group. If you've now got 2 billion people, 2 billion posts a month, which is practically the largest focus group you're ever going to get, why would that be any less valid than questions that you are biasing just by the answer of the questions? Because keep in mind, with social media, they're not in response to a question that they're being asked, and it's real time. It's happening every day. The other issue, obviously, is that I did a focus group 3 months ago, 2 months ago, 5 years ago, whatever it is that it may be. The value of that focus group data, depending upon its specificity, is only as good as the date that you took it. With social data, it's live every day.
Tell me a quick story. Are you interacting in real time with the data? Like, are you working with a client where you see some messaging that goes out in the morning and track what's happening across Twitter and across Facebook, and then you help them respond? Or how quickly are your strategies being put into place with your clients?
Our strategies, frankly, and our tools and our technology can be applied as quickly as the client has the ability to digest it and then do something with it, okay? In fact, the technology far exceeds most corporations' ability to take the data and understand its implications and apply it in a real-time fashion. So we focus more on not necessarily the issue of real-time data, but timely information. Okay, and so it can be anywhere from daily. We've got a client in RIM where we actually did it daily, really only to find out that if we'd simply done it weekly, we would have been able to generate. Because keep in mind, just like in real life, if you launch a message, then if you're going to make a decision based upon only 1 day of feedback, you're going to miss. Okay, that may be the most emotional feedback. That may be rather cathartic for everybody expressing it, but you really need to give it a few days, just like you do in real life, to see where that message is going to trend. And that's really the issue, is where's the message trending as opposed to where's the message at any one point in time.
Sure. And again, let's look to surprises. Where have you been seeing brands mentioned that the client didn't expect?
I think it's probably easier to talk about maybe categories. And so in automotive, we find that there are conversations going on with certain car brands that you wouldn't have thought otherwise, okay? Oftentimes it is, we found in alcoholic beverages, okay? We found that there's an awful lot of adjacency with certain beer brands, for instance, that you wouldn't have thought about in adjacency before. Things in other beverages, major brands from a consumer beverage, non-alcoholic standpoint, where you wouldn't have been able to make the correlation between how moms feel about one brand versus another brand. And so it isn't just about the information. You really have to have, it really comes down to three things: the time, the tools, and the talent. And you really have to be able to apply all three in order to get something that's actionable, that you can actually, and defensible. And I think that, getting back to your original question of how hard is it? It's like anything else. It's paradigm shifting right now. And a lot of brands are just now figuring out how valuable and how widespread social data and social media can be. And at that point, it's really up to us to share with them, okay, here are the technologies, right, that we're able to go ahead and deploy. Here's why it becomes valid. And at the end of the day, it's at least as valid as a much, much smaller percentage of people that you interviewed in a focus group 3 months ago.
Boy, I think this is not just a game changer. I think this is critical for companies who want to survive and who want to keep growing. So looking out over 2012, can you give me your number one piece of advice for brands and for companies?
Test new things. Virtually every major brand has got some sort of test and learn budget, right? But they typically wind up holding on to it until they absolutely have to spend it or they're going to lose it. Right? And I would say, no, when you hear something that makes sense, whether there are, if you wait until there are 50,000 case studies, then you're already too late. Okay, so if it makes sense, logical sense, and you've got the right kind of business issue, then give it a try. It doesn't take very long. Typically, the projects and programs can be anywhere from 2 weeks to a month before you can really say, okay, wow, this really did make a difference. But don't not try it. Okay, it's too pervasive right now, and the conversation, both the depth and the level of conversation, is only going to continue to grow. So the longer you wait, the further behind you're going to be.
That's very important. Skip, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.